So here are some of the more simple things that you can do to your car, whether it's an older car or a relatively new one, to keep it running in tip-top shape for as long as possible and help keep a smile on that beautiful face while you're behind the wheel. Now this list is not going to cover everything, and all cars are different, so the procedure for yours or even the things it requires may be different. I'll show you some of the less obvious things, some of the things you don't always think about, because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, and then some of these things just degrade so little over time, you don't even really notice that it happens. Now this is not a how-to video. This is really basically just to help you get a list together and show you a few helpful tips. And a little bit of visual reference never hurt anybody. Now I'm gonna show you those lesser known items or the less obvious items, but I am gonna run through some of the more obvious things real quick. And this one might be the most obvious of them all. An oil change. Now you saw I started it up. You do want the engine warm before you drain your oil, and you want to drain it as quick as possible because the warm oil is going to help loosen up some of the gunk in the oil pan. Not to mention it just flows better and it comes out faster and it helps get, again, more of that gunk out of the pan. Little hot. A lot of newer cars manufacturers are recommending that you don't need an oil change for 10,000 miles and sometimes more. I personally don't agree with that. Manufacturers have incentive to use less oil. So all they got to do is say change it less, and then all of a sudden they get more brownie points from the government. But in turn, it makes your engine not last as long. Now what about the oil filter? Got it. Strong arms. This is a silly oil filter location, so it's definitely not doable on this one, but should you pre-fill an oil filter with new engine oil? Look at that mess. Well, my opinion is yes. Now, obviously that's not going to happen on this one, but there's tons of different opinions on, well, that's not true. There's only two. If your filter goes like this, personally, I think you should, as long as you're careful to not get any crap in there, because this part is where the oil exits the filter and goes to the rest of the engine. I also really don't like some of these generic brands. I've seen a few of them cut open, and they're not always manufactured very well. And most of the time, I don't use any special oil. Oh, no foam seal on this one. The cap itself was still sealed to the little collar thing. And if you don't already have one, you have got to get one of these wide tip oil funnels. They are so good. I'm sure Amazon has one. I'll find it and link one in the description for you. All right, obviously make sure you use the correct amount. This is not designed to be a how-to video. Well, I just gave myself an engine flush. Totally forgot to put the drain plug back in. Wow, that almost overflowed. Well, let's try this again. Whoa, that's scary. This one does have a foil seal. Yeah, you're a friendly little dude, aren't you? So of course some of this stuff is specific, service interval stuff that the manufacturer is going to say you should be doing anyway. That doesn't mean people don't forget about it. Of course, there's the fuel filter, which really most modern cars don't even have a serviceable fuel filter. It's built into the pump inside the fuel tank. But if you do have one, when the car is 35 years old like this one, you should probably go ahead and put a new one in it. There we go. Good as new. Well, it is new. Of course, you got the air filter. Now, anytime I do an air filter, I also look down inside the air box. Sometimes there's a bunch of gunk in there, and this would be the perfect opportunity to vacuum it out. And while we're at it, never be afraid to fix the old cosmetic stuff. Oh yeah, I guess you could say a functioning light bulb is a little more than cosmetic. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna take this right back off because I want to clean the throttle body. Throttle body cleaning is interesting. This is an old car that doesn't have very many computer controls. Nowadays, cars are completely computer controlled. I lost my throttle body cleaning footage? Well, apparently I lost my throttle body cleaning footage. I am, however, pretty sure my truck needs a throttle body cleaned. That car uses a throttle body cable, or throttle cable I should say. But pretty much any modern car these days is going to be drive-by-wire, where the throttle is actually controlled by an electric motor. Oh wow, look at that. The throttle pedal has a sensor up there. It's called the throttle pedal position sensor. And then it uses sensors and control modules to turn the motor in here. Throttle body cleaning is not typically in the service intervals recommended by the manufacturer. Good time to check this. Yep, replaced that not too long ago. And there you can see some definite black soot all around the throttle plate. Spray some carb cleaner on some lint-free wipes. Gently open that throttle plate. Again, this one's motor actuated. And start wiping. Get as much of that out as you can. Now, a lot of systems, and this one is definitely included, it's going to change its idle behavior. And there's usually a pretty simple procedure to reset it. In most cases, it'll relearn on its own. You just let it idle for a while and it'll relearn stuff. But as usual, you just got to check your manufacturer's specs on how to reset that properly. And there might also be a special procedure for the cleaning. In fact, a lot of cars, even just replacing the battery will reset the idle learn memory. And sometimes cleaning the throttle body will fix that because it automatically adapts as the throttle body gets dirtier. Don't forget the upper portion and the back of the valve, the butterfly valve too. I think we just about got it. Gross. Now we're just getting little bits of discoloration is all. Much better. FYI, this stuff does not feel good on boo-boos. Well, I'm not kidding you. I just pinched my skin underneath this bolt. Hold on. It doesn't hurt. I didn't even feel it. But I do, recommend not doing that. Just trying to hold that bracket in place. That was me. See how she idles. Slightly higher than usual. Cold start on a warm day is usually just a little below that. So I'll let it idle, relearn its position. And on this truck, that should be all it takes. I think you can do that with a scan tool too. And I've got one that has that capability, but I'll just let it learn it the old fashioned way. Now, one of those things people don't think about very often is a throttle cable adjustment. This one is pretty old and they stretch out over time. In most cases, you don't notice this because it happens so gradually over time. Now, this will only apply to older cars that aren't drive-by-wire. There's usually two nuts. There's one right there and one right there. You loosen up the one closest to the throttle body, pull the cable back, and then tighten it back up. You still do want a little bit of play. Sometimes you gotta hold the cable with pliers to keep it from spinning. And on this specific car, there is a plunger that is vacuum actuated that opens the throttle slightly for a cold start. So you either need to do this with the engine running or apply vacuum to that hose so that it's not opening the throttle because then you'll misadjust it. This is the transmission kickdown cable. Sometimes you'll need to adjust that one too. It's a separate cable going to your transmission if you have an automatic and you have throttle cables. On this specific car, there's a second throttle cable though that goes to the cruise control actuator. So in my case, I also have to adjust that. See how loose that is? Man. And I can feel that in the gas pedal. It won't really affect the car, but to me, a more responsive gas pedal just improves the driving experience. There we go, we got just a little bit of play. Same with that one. That should be a much tighter feeling and better feeling pedal. Oh yeah. Just don't forget to put your vacuum hose back. All right, now we're gonna do spark plug wires, distributor, cap, and rotor. Now, if I were to take a guess, at this point in time, I would say probably only 20% of cars on the road still have distributors. It's an old technology that is definitely already been phased out. I don't think anyone's still using them. So if you don't have a distributor or wires, then you only have to worry about spark plugs. 35-year-old spark plugs and wires is insane. Spark plugs were recommended every 30,000 miles on this car. Maybe they've been done before, but I don't think so. Let's see what's in them. Nippon Denso, which in the mid-90s was then changed to just Denso, telling me that these are almost definitely original plugs. Supposed to be at 44 thousandths of an inch. Whoa, and they're at about 67 thousandths. Yeah, probably original. I can almost guarantee you out of everything I'm doing to this car, well, I've rebuilt the transmission because it didn't even drive before, but besides that, everything I'm doing, these basic tune-up items will probably make the biggest difference in how it drives. This should drive very good. In all my time back in the day as a professional mechanic, I saw spark plugs have cars barely running before. Like they were so bad the car barely ran, and probably close to this. Worn plugs, even just by a little bit, absolutely changed drivability. I actually just rebuilt this distributor. Well, I replaced the oil seal in it, which is not sold separately. I had to source it myself. Wasn't very difficult, but I saved myself about $500. I haven't driven it a whole lot yet since doing that distributor, but I can confirm there is no oil leaks in it. Now, back in my day, iridium was just starting, I feel like, or at least getting popular. These original plugs were made of copper. The ones I'm putting in now are platinum. Iridium was all we had. That was the best. Now there's like rectal plutonium or something. Starts with an R. I mean, at this point, surely it's just made up snake oil, snake plugs, snake material, right? The number 3 plug here was actually a little bit loose. You can see it's got some blow by. This poor car. Now, of course, anytime you pop your hood, check your fluid levels. The most basic health check you can do. And don't forget to top off your washer fluid. I don't know what that is. What is beeping? Oh. Just my RC car battery cabinet's getting a little warm. Okay, crisis averted. And beyond checking the fluids, you need to change them at the proper intervals too. Just like oil, all the other fluids go bad. Newer cars these days, at least a lot of them, say you never have to change the transmission fluid. That is not true. They call it lifetime fluid, but they never specify what the lifetime is. It's a weird play of words, but it absolutely goes bad. My recommendation, my opinion, is not to go beyond 60,000 miles. And you should flush your brake fluid too. I'm actually going to cover that in a different video. I've already showed on this channel what neglecting your transmission fluid can do. I have a power steering fluid leak, so it's a little empty right now, but you should also change that. Power steering is one of the easiest ones to do. You just take off usually the smaller hose. You have to make sure it's the return hose and not the supply hose. Pop that off, extend it into a container, start the car, have someone turn the steering wheel left and right and add fluid continuously while it pumps old fluid into the container. Unfortunately, these days you have to go beyond what manufacturers say when it comes to almost any fluid. All right, back to the old truck. We're gonna do PCV valve. This cheap little device is also quite often forgot about because it's usually not in the service manual, or the mileage intervals anyway. Some cars don't have them, but if it does, it's usually in the valve cover. This one does not, but the next generation of that engine does. A good PCV valve will have a good jiggle to it. Now, it doesn't take a whole lot of looking to discover that this is most likely the original PCV valve on this truck. Yeah, that breather hose needs to be replaced pretty bad. That's really cracked. This still has its little insulation sleeve over it and everything, which I don't know if we're going to be able to reuse this. It's pretty crusty. I'm going to say no. Contaminate the new valve, possibly. Now, I said that usually these are in valve covers. There is the occasional... Oh, wow, it's in there. Oh, man. There's the occasional time when they're not. Some Honda 4-cylinders have it coming out of the block, and a lot of times they're just sitting in a rubber grommet. This one just happens to be threaded. It's a pathway from the crankcase to the intake. However, after a while they can clog up and actually cause internal engine pressures that you don't want. She still jiggles, but it's rather disgusting looking in there. But that's good because this is preventative maintenance. We don't want that to turn into something that can cause a problem. New one seems to match up exactly right. I think I decided I'm gonna go ahead and slide this on over anyway, just so I can say it's there. Block the intake so that gunk doesn't fall in. There we go. Maintenance prevented, or preventative maintenance. On the old baby hauler, Honda Earth Dreams. It's this weird plastic contraption right here in the valve cover. Now, some people will call this snake oil, and that's okay, maybe it is, but in my opinion, it can't hurt. Occasionally, put some sort of fuel system or fuel injector cleaner in your gas tank. Snake oil or not, the fuel system, just like anything else, is gonna get dirty. And while gasoline is itself a cleaner, these snake oils do have other chemicals in them that help clean stuff up. Obviously, don't forget your air pressure in your tires. If you have a spare, don't forget that one. When you finally need it, it won't have air in it. A few more honorable mentions. The radiator cap. Believe it or not, these can go bad. For one, The spring that's right there can get weak over time, but I've even seen it to where that whole assembly right there falls off. And this little cap has a much bigger job than just holding coolant in the system. It also regulates the pressure. That spring is calibrated to be exactly, in this case, 14 or 13, I think it's 13 PSI. So inspect these, but I would also replace them at maybe 60,000 miles. That's another one that gets flown under the radar and doesn't get talked about very much, and is also never mentioned by the manufacturer as a mileage interval replacement. Mass airflow sensor. Now this is an old car, as mentioned several times, and it uses a mechanical sensor. It has an actual door. As the engine creates vacuum, that door actually gets sucked open from the air flowing through, and it measures how far the door is open to know how much fuel to add. Modern cars that have a mass airflow sensor use a little heating filament. Instead of using an actual door, the air flows over that heating filament and it gets cooled down, and the vehicle computer, the ECM, actually measures how much amperage it has to send back to that element to get it to stay heated. And those can get dirty. In fact, I have seen an entire leaf wrap around that filament and it causes a no run or a no start condition. But they can get slightly dirty, diminishing performance and fuel mileage. And those sensors are usually cleanable, so you would take it out, you would spray it with mass airflow sensor cleaner, put it back in, and you may or may not notice a difference. Just depends on if it was dirty in the first place. I showed you the cracked hose on my Tundra. You gotta check vacuum hoses too, because you can see there's a little crack right there. If those cracks spread past the little nipple end, you're gonna have a vacuum leak, and that can actually affect all kinds of things, including drivability concerns. This isn't an inspection video. That's not what this is, but that is definitely something that gets overlooked very easily. Checking and cleaning chassis grounds and engine grounds. If you're having any electrical concerns, one of the cheapest and easiest things to do would be to loosen all your grounds, whether on the chassis, on the transmission, on the engine, the firewall, wire brush them, and put them back on. Or you can just do that every now and then to prevent the problem in the first place. Also, a great idea to check your cooling fans. Now that's whether they're clutch actuated like on some rear wheel drive vehicles, or if they're electric like this. For a rear wheel drive clutch, viscous clutch actuated fan, you want to make sure that it doesn't spin too easily, especially in colder weather. If it spins too easily, it's not actually going to spin at full power when it's needed. But also inspect it for cracks. Inspect for cracks along the fan. I have seen where fans just start cracking from the centrifugal force of the fan blades spinning for so many years over so many times, and the plastic gets brittle. So look for cracks along the fins and along the hub of the fan. Make sure they spin, because when motors start to go bad, a lot of times they'll seize up and the fan won't spin easily. Okay, a couple more things, and the last one, I can almost guarantee you yours needs. And you probably think about it almost every time you drive, especially at night. But first, wiper blades. The previous owner of this car was just driving this a few months ago. You only remember it when it rains, and then you forget to get them afterwards, and it's just something you forget about sometimes. Be very careful, because I have seen people let go of these and that metal smashes into the windshield and cracks it. While you're at it, clean your windshield. Look at that. And for Pete's sake, look how smudgy that is. Don't forget the inside. Clean, dirty. And that's what I was talking about. Every time at night, people's headlights are bouncing off of that, and it makes it really hard to see. It's unsafe, it's inconvenient, it's annoying. And I know it sounds weird, but again, in my experience from the shop back in the day, the cars that seemed better taken care of, the ones that were cleaner, they just seemed to have less problems. They seemed to last longer. And it's probably a mentality thing, but maybe some of it is your car has feelings too. Like I said, I definitely didn't cover everything in this video. These are just ideas and things that people forget about sometimes. Let me know if there's something you would add to this list.